What is up, all my chosen ones? Jazz Royce back now, guys. Today's gonna be a very fun video because you see the title. We're gonna go over how you can potentially make millions off of Volt. Now, before we begin, guys, please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for me, please, and thank you. Now, I like to preface by saying first, this is not financial advice. This is just the approach that I'm thinking of going for when Volt takes off and how I'm going to use that money to create more millions so I'll never have to work again. I mean, it's one thing to quit your job, working for yourself, and I enjoy being self-employed. But at the same time, I'm making these investments because the goal is to stay financially free. Financially free means I don't have to continue doing work for money. The money is doing the work for me. And that's what we're gonna get into today, guys. So first things first, I'd like to go over my take profit strategy for Volt. I actually spent a decent portion of my day doing it. I wrote it down and put it up. So I did take a picture of what I wrote down, and I'm gonna be going over it based off of my phone. All right, guys, so I titled it as Volt Investment / Wealth Plan, and I put in all caps for me to do not change it. Why? Because let's be honest, think about folks that win the lottery, right? You've never seen that type of money before. All of a sudden, boom, it's in your hands. Your emotions might get the best of you versus your rationality, and you might fumble the entire bag. Well, I don't want this to happen with my Volt bag, especially. As you can see, we are trading sideways beautifully, on our way to getting back into the 5-0 range. Despite the conditions of the market, Volt is doing massive work. 29 exchanges. I had to break this down. So I rounded it off to the price of when we hit 5 zeros. This is how I'm going to start this plan. So around 5 zeros with the current Volt tokens that I'm holding, it should be approximately $7,400. Now, I'm not going to take profits from there. I took profits. I said once it hits $10,000 of profit, once V2 launches, this was like a couple months back, I'm going to take out $1,500 and let the rest ride. And I did that. I had $8,500 left, and it's been riding since, Out of my own money, what did I put into Volt? About $3,600 back in, I believe it was March, late February to March timeframe. I put about $3,600 in up front. And when I took the $1,500 out, that still technically means that I have $2,100 of what I initially put in still in Volt, which I'm perfectly fine with, because this is going to lead into the next part. So this was doing the math based off of an approximate $65 million market cap. Right here, we're at around 64 million. I didn't know the exact market cap it would be to hit 5 zeros, so I rounded it to 65. Okay, so a 10x from there. A 10x from there is when I plan on taking more profit. So that would be hitting 4 zeros, approximately a $650 million market cap, making my total of Volt at around $74,000 to $75,000. Now, my plan for that is to take 2 billion tokens, give or take, and that would be a total of around $20,000 of profit that I would plan to take once we hit 4 zeros. So if you look over here, we're at 6 zeros and a 9. So 4 zeros, we'd have to 10x before I'm considering taking profits. Now, that would leave me with a total of $54,000 in Volt at the 4-0 mark. What's the next step? Now, the next step, we're going to get into the old St. Thomas territory where they hit the $5 to $8 billion market cap. So with Volt hitting 3 zeros, that would be another 10x from there, putting the market cap at about $6.5 billion market cap. What does that mean? That means the $54,000 that I left behind in Volt after taking profits when we hit 4 zeros is now going to be worth 10 times more, meaning that it's going to be at $541,000 approximately, right? Now we're sitting on some real money. $540,000 is a lot of money. That's $500,000. Now, what is my plan? I'm still sticking to the plan, which means that at that point, I would plan on taking around $200,000 of profit at $541,000, because now this is where it starts to get a little tricky with the taxes. Okay, so when you're taking profits, right, the profits that you take over $209,000, it would be about 3% more taxes to pay in short-term capital gains tax than it would if you pull money out underneath $209,000. And that is if you're filing your taxes as a single individual. Now, this is where we start getting into higher waters, if you will, right? This is where we start to really see things hit towards that peak that we want to see, where Shiba hit, where Dogecoin hit. Now it's this territory. So now we're looking at, I split it in half, right? Because After taking a $200,000 of profit from there, that will still be $341,000 to $350,000 left in Vault. Now, let's say Vault hits 2 zeros. So that's another 10x from the $6.5 billion market cap. That would put Vault at $65 billion market cap, meaning that the $341,000 to $350,000 that I left behind will now be worth between $3.4 to $3.5 million before taxes and fees, of course. I know a big pivot of what we've all been talking about, waiting to see Vault hit, is the 50 billion mark. I'm waiting for the 50 billion mark. Now, I also did the math to see how much would my $340,000 to $350,000 left in Vault at 3 zeros be if I decide to wait till 50 billion to then take majority of those profits out. That would be about $2,627,000 at the 50 billion market cap. Obviously, this is speculation. It's not the exact number, so it's more likely between 2.6 to 2.7, give or take. Maybe if I'm a little off, it'll be 2.5 million. It's still multi-millions, all right? That's the bottom line. Now, where it gets a little tricky, right? When you're taking the profits out, because as you know, you're subject to pay taxes when you hit that sell button, right? Now, if I was to pull out a full 2 mil, that's where it gets a little tricky, because then I would be subject to be paying short-term capital gains tax if it was to hit this by, let's say, the end of the year. Now, if things could stretch out and the millions can kind of stretch out a little longer, and let's say if I take profit from that point, if I take money out in increments, and then I wait until March of next year to then take the remainder out, or even if I leave a little moon bag, maybe I'll leave a little moon bag to see if Vault can even touch a penny or something like that. We never know what can happen with the space altogether, right? Even if I do that, that means the max taxes I'll be paying would be long-term capital gains tax, which would mean no more than 25%, versus if I pull the millions out on short-term capital gains tax, that's about 37% I'm subject to pay. So what would that difference be in the numbers, right? Well, let's say at a 50 billion market cap, if I wait until the time when I first did my investments was back in March to pull a big sum of that, like pull it completely out, like completely out of the wallet, cashing it out maybe into USDC, and then just use that, you know what I mean, live off of that for a bit. If I was to do that long-term capital gains tax wise, I would be saving about $300,000 to $350,000 just in taxes alone. Now that we got that worked out, right? Let's skip ahead. Let's say that we already did it. We hit the 50 billion, we hit beyond, right? We finally reached the limit where we saw Shiba and Doge hit, right? Now, this is all speculation, but bear with me, guys. If you're interested, continue listening because it gets better. We all know what happens with people when they make a lot of money that they're not accustomed to, that their families never made. You can't hold it. You lose it. Before you know, you have $1 million, $2 million, and it's gone before the next decade is even done with. Now me, I got to think a lot more smart about this opposed to other individuals that are older than me because I'm only 26. Let's say if I do pull out at the 50 billion market cap, $2.6 million for the sake of this conversation, I need to find a way to make that 2.6 million last. And remember, it's not the full 2.6 either. I'm still subject to pay taxes on that. So depending on if it's short-term or long-term capital gains tax, either or, I'll probably be left with really after taxes like anywhere from 2.1 million, maybe downwards to like 1.8 million. My thing was that I wanted to see, because I'm still figuring out the tax, I still got to talk to my tax guy. If I'm right and I get to save about $300,000 to $350,000 pulling my money out under the long-term capital gains tax bracket versus pulling it out too early and paying a 37% short-term capital gains tax, that difference in tax that I saved can change the course of my next couple decades exponentially. What do I mean by that? Well, I was thinking if I can take those couple $100,000 that I saved and I use that to do like a retirement investment, right? Now I was looking at 401ks and Roth IRAs, but let's be honest, those things are more cut out for the traditional income earner. It's not really cut out for individuals that are clocking in 6-7 figures off of altcoins like we're seeing today. This is still a new trend, right? So I was like, man, what if I take a few $100,000 of that, ideally $250,000 of that, right? I'm still enjoying the rest of the money there. I'm gonna live it. I'm gonna live it up. I'm gonna them little cars I want. I'm gonna get me a nice home when the time is right. I'm still cool with my apartment, so I might even have a mill and still be living in an apartment. I'm just that type of person. But that $250,000 I'm talking about. What if I take that, right? And I was like, let me put it into maybe a stable investment like an S&P 500, something that I know can net me annual returns for decades and decades and decades. Now, obviously, we know it's going to be volatile. It's going to have its up years and it's going to have its down years, right? But when I was looking at what is the average annual return that people have seen from 1957 to just last year, it's an average of about 10.6%, right? So 10.5 to 10.6% of an annual return that individuals that invested into the S&P 500 would see. So then I went over and I said, let me try and find a calculator to really give me a more rougher idea of what if I take that 250,000, I put it into an S&P 500. Now, obviously, we don't know the exact number of return. We're just going off of the estimation. So I just put 10.5% compounded annually, 0 additional contributions, because I wanted to do something where I could just drop a lump sum and leave it there. Or maybe I put in increments like, in a span of a couple months to add it up to 250K. Who knows, right? And I leave it there for 25 years. So let's say if this hits this year, right? If Volt takes off this year, even if it's next year where it hits that, I'll be between the age of 26 to 27. Now, if I put this money in there and I leave it in there for 25 more years, so we're looking at when I'm like my early 50s, by that point, the return I should be seeing on just making that one move should potentially, speculatively, put me at around $3 million more by the time I enter my middle age and onwards, right? So I can use Volt to secure me with some millions and even see other altcoins that come out as well and do some trading and stuff like that, and still do some promo work and build my brand up, use my brand to do different type of videos and use it as to create other streams of income during my young years, my 20s and 30s. And then as I approach my 40s and 50s, that little 250K that I took from the Volt winnings that I saved on the taxes and stuff like that would be making me more or less the same amount of money that I made on Volt, well, possibly even more money depending on how long I leave it in there for, and also the state of how the overall markets go in the decades to follow. Right now, this is just an optimistic outlook. Obviously, if you look at annual returns on the S&P, like for example, as of right now, we're down, I think 19% or something like that. It's how it goes. But looking at just the average, the median of about 10%, look at it, guys. Look at how it breaks down. It's putting a one lump sum in and leaving it there for 25 years. Look at the return that could be made. My whole point is that I want to not only touch my first million using altcoins, but specifically like Volt Inu, but I want to keep the money coming in. I want to keep it in circulation. So even if I don't need that much millions because I'm a pretty simple type of person, my kids in the future and their kids and stuff, they can use that. You know what I mean? And then that circles back to that phrase that we all either love or hate because some people abuse it, called generational wealth. I feel like that is a plan that I'm leaning towards. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man. This is just speculation. Obviously, we got a ways to go before we see Volt even touch those type of heights, but hey, it is moving in the right direction. So I like to plan way in advance so I don't get hit with no surprises. I'm not the type that likes surprises. I want to be prepared and execute accordingly to make sure that I'm not only enjoying my gains in Volt, but I'm laying out more seeds so the older me can love the fact that I invested in Volt from this time frame. All right, so with that being said, folks, I'm Jazz Royce, and I will catch each and every one of you guys at the top.